So let's talk about what happened on the evening of November 10th. A massive explosion, right near Delhi's iconic Red Fort. It was an event that didn't just shatter the peace, it took lives and, it really brought up some huge questions about national security. So in this explainer, we're going to break down everything the sources are telling us so far about the attack, the victims, and the really complicated investigation that kicked off right after. All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. We've got 6 parts. First, we'll look at the blast itself, then the tragic human side of it. After that, we'll dive into the investigation, and you'll see there's a really critical link to another city. We'll zero in on a key suspect, and then we'll wrap up with the big questions that are still hanging in the air. Okay, so first up, the blast. Let's just picture it. We're in Delhi, it's a regular evening, the area is busy, full of people. To really get a sense of how fast everything went down, we're going to walk through a timeline of the first 30 minutes. Okay, so check this out. At 6:45 p.m., a Hyundai i20 leaves a parking lot. Just 7 minutes later, at 6:52, it stopped at a red light, and then, boom, it explodes. The response was incredibly fast. A call hits the fire services at 6:55. And by 7 p.m., we're talking just 8 minutes after the explosion, the police are on site. That's a rapid response. And this wasn't a small blast. The force was just immense. You see this quote from a local shopkeeper here? "We hadn't heard anything as loud before." I mean, that really says it all. Sources are saying the sound carried for 2.5 kilometers. Think about that. Cars nearby were just shredded, with pieces flying 150 meters away. It's hard to even imagine. But all the noise, all the destruction, that's only part of the story. The real impact, the true weight of this, is the human cost. This is where we move from just the facts of an incident to the heart of a tragedy. 13 people lost their lives. It's just a devastating number, and it's worth taking a second to really let that sink in. And on top of that, more than 20 people were injured. But here's something that really stands out from the reports: the community response. It was immediate. Before the official ambulances could even get there, regular people in Chandni Chowk were using their e-rickshaws to ferry the injured to the hospital. I mean, that's just incredible. It really shows the spirit of the city, even in the middle of all that horror. And it's so important to remember, these aren't just numbers on a screen. These were real people with real lives. People like Lokesh Agrawal, who was just in town visiting family in the hospital. Ashok Gujar, a bus conductor heading home after his shift. Pankaj Saini, a cab driver. And Dinesh Mishra, Noman, and Juman Mohammed, all of them were just local workers, doing their jobs, trying to make a living. So while the city was still reeling from this, a huge investigation kicked into gear. We're talking India's top counterterrorism agencies, the NIA and NSG, were brought in. Their job to figure out who did this. And right away, the investigation zeroed in on the most important clue they had: the car. Sources identified it as a Hyundai i20. So tracking down where this car came from using its registration number became priority number 1. But this wasn't going to be easy. Tracing the car's owner was a total mess. It had been sold over and over again. The trail went from Gurgaon to Delhi to Ambala, and get this, there were even reports linking one of the old owners to Pulwama. This wasn't just a coincidence. This was a deliberately confusing trail, made to slow the cops down. The government's next move pretty much confirmed what everyone suspected. They registered the case under the UAPA. Now, for those who don't know, that's the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. It's specifically for terrorism. Add to that the Prime Minister himself calling it a conspiracy, and the message was crystal clear. They were treating this as a terror attack. Okay, now this is where the story takes a major turn. This whole investigation wasn't happening in isolation. It turns out that on the exact same day as the blast, a police raid was going down in the nearby city of Faridabaad. And what they found there, well, it blew the whole case wide open and showed this attack was just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. So let's put these two events side by side. November 10th. In Delhi, you've got the car bomb. At the exact same time in Faridabad, police are busting a terror cell connected to groups like Jaish-e-Mohammed. It didn't take long for investigators to realize, hey, wait a minute, these aren't two different stories. This is the same story. And the amount of stuff they found in Faridabad is just mind-blowing. The police seized over 3,000 kilograms of explosives, probably ammonium nitrate. Let that sink in. 3,000 kilos. It makes you think that the Delhi blast, as horrible as it was, might have been just the beginning of a much, much bigger attack. And it wasn't just the explosives. They found the whole shebang, a complete bomb-making factory, basically, and an arsenal to go with it. A Krinkov rifle, a pistol, timers, batteries, remotes, wires, literally everything you'd need to build more bombs and launch a full-on attack. So, with these arrests in Faridabaad and this huge find, investigators could finally start connecting the dots to the people involved. And that led them straight to one main suspect, a guy they believe is the one who set off the car bomb in Delhi. Which brings us to the big question, who is Umar Nabi? This guy became the focus of the entire investigation. Turns out, he was a doctor originally from Pulwama, and he worked at the same university in Faridabad as one of the other guys they arrested. All right, so let's walk through the police theory here. Point 1. Nabi knew the other 2 doctors who were arrested in Faridabad. He was their associate. Point 2. As soon as his buddies were arrested, he disappeared, vanished, poof. And point 3, this is the clincher, sources are saying that Hyundai i20, the bomb car, was last seen with him. So the theory they're working with is that when he heard about the arrests, he panicked, and in that desperation, he set off the bomb. And this leads to one last, really grim question for the investigators. Did Umar Nabi die in his own explosion? To find out, they've taken a DNA sample from his mother. They're going to compare it to the unidentified bodies found at the blast site to see if they get a match. Okay, so we've talked about the crime and the investigation. But after an attack like this, there are always bigger questions, right? Questions about how we respond, not just as a country, but as people. And our source material really points to a call for being responsible citizens when something terrible happens. It boils down to 3 key things. First, watch out for sensationalism. Media channels just chasing ratings. We gotta be critical. Second, reject the hate. There are always trolls who use tragedies like this to try and divide people. Just ignore them. And third, and this is a big one, check our own biases. Before we share some theory or rumor, we need to stop and think, is this actually proven? So we'll end with the biggest question of all, the one we really want to leave you thinking about. Yeah, the investigation is trying to find the people responsible, and that's crucial. But this whole thing raises an enormous red flag for national security. The question is this: how on earth did a terror cell manage to get over 3,000 kilograms of explosives into Faridabad, a city right next door to the capital? That's the question that really needs an answer if we're going to stop something like this from ever happening again.